Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing us together. Father, we ask that you lay hands on Kim and Mike as they tell their story. Father, these precious times together, Father, we do these to heal other peoples and other families. Father, open their hearts, open their minds, and do healing with them. Father, that these times together will better serve them going forward. Father, we ask that you sit with each one of us and bless us and keep us safe. We say these in your name.
Amen.
Amen. Let's go to work.
You sit on the toilet, don't you? Use that as your meditation.
Not my wife, not your wife, nor anybody listening to this podcast has eaten a shit sandwich.
Welcome to Recovery Unfiltered. I'm Larry. I'm an alcoholic.
I am Rob. I am also an alcoholic. We are not professionals. There are no letters after our names. We know very little. However, you will hear the word God and a 4-letter word in the same sentence. You will also be offended. So if you are easily offended, just pass us by. This podcast is not for you.
Our opinions are just that. If you don't agree with what we're saying,
I'm over that thing, Mike. Robbie. Hi, Rob.
How you doing, buddy?
I am over that.
We went from a nice prayer, beautiful prayer, heartfelt prayer. You sit on the toilet, don't you?
Well,
that's
hey,
unfiltered.
listen, what did I say? AA is the only place where you hear God and fuck in the same sentence.
Yeah. And they mean both of them. You know, they mean it.
They have problems.
Welcome back, Mike.
Hey.
You know, I missed you last week.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago now.
Yeah. It was her fault.
No. Don't do it. Don't do it. Throwing poor Kim under the bus already. We haven't even introduced her yet.
Sorry.
Give me a couple minutes here. I want to correct a few things with Rob. Rob.
Go ahead.
A couple in our 2 last podcasts, I want to say it was last week. We were talking about sponsorship, right?
Okay.
And I asked you about you being tired, right? And how you go about that. Mm-hmm. And you said something in there, and I want to very much clarify with our listeners that you don't go home and spill to Bonnie everything that's been talked about in the meetings.
No.
But it kind of came across that way because you said when you're tired, you get home and Bonnie will listen to you, blah, blah, blah. When I heard it, I was like, yeah, that's not, I mean, I'll come home.
I get what you mean.
I'll come home and talk to Katie about stuff that's happened in the meeting and stuff, but I don't spit names. I don't spit anything like that.
Okay, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
When I meant if I'm going doing a 5th step or doing step work with a man, when she said, well, my wife said, because she's not making me. Right. Yes, she is. Pushing me. Wednesdays and Fridays, I go do jujitsu. Now, with Nathan and my son's there, we're training. And she says, when you come home, it's the same look, the same energy, even though you're tired, usually then you come home after you've worked with another man, done step work or something, which is something I enjoy. And we talk about it, but I know I don't, it's that same fire in the world, because I'll be usually real excited talking about God and that just, you get all juiced up and it's amazing. And how God's working in that man's life, but I still stick to my 4 rules.
No, for sure. Yeah. And I know that I heard you say it and I knew what you meant, but I just wanted to make sure our listeners.
Good.
I like I said, I heard that. And you know what? You said you were tired again today in the meeting.
Oh, beat.
Okay. I'm going to go back to this.
I've overdone the balance thing again. I've done it to the extreme. Yeah, I've done it. I've done it.
Okay. You're checking yourself.
Yeah.
I'm there. Because like I said, I worry about you because you know what? When I need you, I need to make sure you're there for me. I don't give a fuck about any of those other people.
I got you.
I want to just make sure you're there for me. And I need you fresh anytime I call.
I'm working on it. Tuesdays are now done. Tuesdays are open.
Why are you echoing?
Because I'm way low.
Why are you echoing?
I don't know.
Larry, we just had a meeting today about being selfish and self-centered.
You know why I had to leave, Mike? Because they were talking about me too much. I had to get the fuck out of there. I'm like, God damn it, this is too much like me. I got to go. No, my work phones got blowing up, so I had to get the hell out of there. I had all kinds of stuff going on. All right, back to the meeting. All right, so we talked about you. So I want to correct something, Mike, we talked last week. I had a few of our listeners that asked about Joseph. How is Joseph doing?
Joseph's fine. I have to ask my wife how old he is. I'm terrible with birthdays. What is Joe, 45?
Joseph is 44.
44. And he's fine. He's disabled. He lives with us and will till we're gone. But he gets around fine. He can't drive, stuff like that. If you looked at him, it appears like maybe he had a stroke, like one side of his body doesn't work real good.
Okay.
But he's...
And how's he mentally?
Short-term memory issues, epilepsy.
Okay.
But other than that, cognitively, he's younger than his age, but he's still pretty sharp and good sense of humor.
That voice is who, Mike?
My beautiful wife, Kimberly. The brains of the outfit.
There you go. You know, we kind of jumped right into this, and that's fine. You know what? At the end of episode 42, I think, was Mike, and we got to talking about Kim quite a bit. And at the end of Jason's first two stories, you know, Jason was episode 3 and 4, and my wife kept telling me,
and 20, right?
Yes, 3. Well, 20 was him and Jenny. Right. So after 3 and 4, Katie kept after me. She's like, Larry, Jason's story is not done. Jason's story is not done. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And I kept going back and listening. I'm like, oh man, we need to bring Jenny in, right? Mm-hmm. Because that's a big part of his recovery. And when I was finishing up Mike's story, the second part of it, towards the end of it, we really started talking about Kim. And I thought to myself, oh no, we got to bring Kim back, because our original thought was to bring Jason back in and finish up a little bit. But then I was like, there's no way we can't finish a story like that. We got to finish it with Kim, because this is the recovery part that we talked about. Why we do that. The biggest thing is the recovery between you two and how you guys are doing. And that's what we want to talk about today. So I want to ask a couple questions, Kim. 9 months ago, when Mike said, I'm done, how'd that make you feel?
That's hard. I was at work, and I know he had been talking to somebody at the recovery.
At New Hope.
New Hope, yeah. Yes. And this is going back and forth, and he called me up and said he's calling an Uber and he's going into recovery. And I said, don't call an Uber. I'm on my way to pick you up. Because I know how Michael is, and I know I needed to be there with him. And so I picked him up and drove him, and hopeful. I felt hopeful.
Good. Different this time?
Once I picked him up, yes.
Oh, good. You saw it.
Mm-hmm. I seen his attitude.
Nice.
I seen, his attitude, his demeanor was totally different this time. He was ready.
Awesome. I've been dying to ask you that question. I have, because I think when I made the decision to go into recovery, I saw the
April 10th.
Yeah, I saw the look on my wife's face change, and I knew I'd made the right choice, right? And because she saw it, I think she knew it right away, right? She knew that I was done. It was a rough one. So, anyways, like I said, I've been dying to ask that question, and we cleared up Joseph. So I want to go back. We're gonna go back, because now we're gonna talk. You know, Mike's already told the story, but I want to go back and I want to tell it a little bit more. I want to go back to the time where you were sitting on the couch and he walked in and he told, what was her name? Barbara. I'm here for her.
Yeah.
Not you.
Yeah. The gal opened up the door excited to see him, and
I'm here for you. Let's talk about that.
I wanted to crawl under the couch. Yeah. And she just looked shocked, and I was shocked, and Mike's just like, well.
Yeah, like
you
got to get up or what?
And right then I should have told him to take a hike, but it was meant to be, so
right.
I got up.
Right.
She said she should have ran.
Yeah. But how many years later did you decide you should have ran? Shortly after that, probably.
No. Never.
So how long were you guys together when Joseph got it in his accident?
4 years together, 2 years married.
Okay.
And Michael was a year old.
just over a year old.
Okay. So you guys had a very established relationship. I think that was a little bit I was confused.
Yeah,
on
I thought because the way Mike kind of talked about it was like right then boom, boom. Had this, he was just talking about the highlights.
Yeah.
You know, Kim and I got together. Then Joseph, you know, didn't.
Right. So that's one of the things. And how did you handle that? Because that was traumatic for you, even though you guys have been together for that long. Was Joseph living with you guys? He was living with you guys.
Yeah, Mike had got custody of him by then.
Right. So how did that, I mean, what kind of transition was that for you? Because now you're going from caring for a 1-year-old, now you're caring for a husband that's starting to drink again and possibly having to bring home 2 infants. I mean, and not even for sure. So how did you handle that?
God.
Atta girl.
God. Prayer. Yeah. We had, we went to a small church at the time as well. And so we had a lot of prayer warriors around us and support.
Okay. And did you notice Mike starting to drink again at that time?
Well, I think he wasn't drinking heavily that I knew of.
Okay.
He just started drinking again. There was a time after Joseph got back from the hospital that he started drinking more, not coming home straight after work, hanging around people that maybe he shouldn't.
Little different.
I think he was it was kind of like he uses it as a de-stressor.
Right. Well, I mean.
Yeah, and he had been through a lot.
Right.
But
you'd been through a lot too, and you were using it as a de-stressor.
True. Not that I didn't drink, but yeah, I was taking care of my responsibilities, and he was too. For the most
you were drinking
part.
A little bit yourself, okay, but not like he was.
Not like he was.
So, how long after Joseph? All that because what did you go into a rehab or did you? When was your first rehab, Mike?
All your rehabs, correct me if I'm wrong, were after Michael.
Oh, was it after Michael? So you didn't.
Because after Joseph, when Joseph got home, you guys had 16 years really together, you know, taking care of Joseph, Michael growing up. What was going on during that time, that 16 years?
Life. It was good. It was. I
mean, he wasn't off the rails. He was just dad.
Just
Michael worked hard. He worked really hard. He's a great provider. I was a stay-at-home mom. And life was good.
Okay. Yeah. So when that's, oh man, I don't even know how to go into this conversation, this topic.
It's
I know.
Recovery Unfiltered.
Kim, I'm really trying to do this because you guys, we're recording on May 10th and Mikey's anniversary of the accident was yesterday.
18 years.
Yeah. 18 years.
And every year, because so every year this time I text him or call him and we talk and, you know, just, how you doing, Jason? You know, love you. Then we'll just talk about, you know.
So how are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Okay.
I come into it with a heart of gratitude.
Oh, wow. Okay.
From day one, just about, but, try not to cry.
You're fine.
That I was blessed to be Michael's mother.
Wow. Okay.
And I wouldn't trade those 17 years with him.
I love it.
To have him one more minute.
Right.
You know, I couldn't ask for a better child.
Wow. And so I'm really trying to figure out how to transition. I mean, I could sit here.
I have a question if I can.
Go ahead, please.
Well, because
it's your show too, fool.
Everything. So,
good God.
Because I mean, we've covered this. You are fresh with Mike, and I've been kicking him since he got into the rooms. If he's ever mentioned my name, he was not my biggest fan when he got in there. Because I heard Jason's story. I got to live it with him. You know, I first met Mike, 17, whatever this, you know, but the Butler, because my wife's related to Rodney Butler.
Okay.
So we would go over there for the Tyler stuff. And, you know, that's where I first met him. Then to see him come back in the rooms and knowing what he has not dealt with. Mm-hmm. And Jason has 8, say he'll be coming up on 8 years sober. You know, I got to be a part of that. So we've covered all this ground, but now every Thursday before I go to because I sponsor guys. So before the big book study, after I get done doing my work with the guy, I'll step aside and I'll read this. That's amazing. At 17 years old or 60, whenever he wrote that, what a heart, so that's just kind of keep that with me.
Well, read it, fool. Now that nobody on the podcast has visual.
This is a poem that Mikey, your guys' son, wrote, and Mike gave us copies of this prayer from a teenager. Lord, you're the coolest. You can do anything. You're bigger than anything. You can fix everything if you wanted to. You are glorious to us. Lord, you went through all that just for us, ignorant, selfish fools. We do all things, bad things, but you're always there to help us and forgive. As those nails went through your hands and feet, you weren't thinking of how much it hurt. You were thinking about us. You're more than I can express. You died for us. Your last breaths were for us. You didn't feel sorry for yourself. You are the thing. You are the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, the Alpha and the Omega. You are the Big Bang. You created everything. You show the path of our life. You are the light. You will come back for us. It could be today or a million years from now. There is no tomorrow. You'll decide when the time is right. Amen.
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 He was 16 when he wrote that?
Like somewhere around there, maybe give or take.
I was not thinking of that at that age.
Good grief,
I was wrestling,
no.
but I wasn't like that.
No, good grief, no. So I don't want to go into the accident a ton, right?
But I have a question.
Why do you keep raising your hand?
Because I'm
this is your damn show too, fool.
I want to know about Mike. Okay, well, because we talked about right after Joseph, Mikey's a year. You guys have the 16 years before the accident. What was that Mike like? Then the Mike after the accident, and then to the Mike that you see now. And how did you? I know God's the answer, but I want to know about him. What the changes you saw in him. Bring it into the light, Kim. As you would tell Mike, bring it into the light.
Yeah, we've heard about you in a lot of meetings, Kim. I promise you. You've created a lot of laughter.
And I just want to say one, because I love the big book. Mike knows I do, and I'm never going to get that other crappy one, Mike. But I want to share this because when he shares of you, I think of my wife.
Language.
And this is part of Dr. Bob. Dr. Bob's nightmare. He shares, for some reason, we alcoholics seem to have the gift of picking out the world's finest women. Huh. Why they should be subjected to the tortures we inflict upon them, I can never explain. Tell me about Mike.
Michael, he is...
Because the 16 years was great.
Yes, he is the best man I've ever met. I've never met a man that I consider better than him. Hardworking, hard-headed, generous, loving. He's never given himself enough credit. He's his own worst critic.
I think most of us alcoholics are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He never felt worthy. I would say that was his worst thing about him.
Right.
Is that he never gave himself a break.
Yeah, that's true for a lot of alcoholics. Yeah.
And when the accident happened, Michael, what changed in him besides the drinking?
He broke. He completely broke.
And now
he had no coping skills.
And how many years are we beyond the wreck? It was 2007, am I correct?
Yes.
So we're what, 19 years?
18.
18 years?
Yeah, 18 years. And now, Mike, you got...
Is 9 months sober coming up?
Yep.
That's a journey. I mean, that's a story right there of how you... I mean, again, we married the world's most amazing woman.
I don't know how my wife stuck with me.
Right.
I mean, it's amazing when we sit back and we look at, I put my wife through about that amount of time. The difference was she was watching her husband just disintegrate, but she didn't lose a child. You were having to grieve your child.
and worried about
grieve the
him.
loss, your husband.
Buried and not buried.
You were watching your husband slowly kill himself. And that had to be just extremely rough on you. Thank God you had a God.
We'll talk about that.
Well, unfortunately, I did give my grief to God. I gave my son to God. I didn't give my husband to God.
There you go.
I was mad at him. Very angry, scared, and truthfully, I piled it on him. How could you do this to me?
Okay.
How could you do this to us? How could you do this to our child's memory? You know, I lost my son. We lost our son. Now we're going to lose our marriage. We were told 85% of marriages don't last losing a child.
That's huge.
It was a bigger percent than that.
And why is that, do you think? And haven't been through that experience?
Because you grieve differently.
But he wasn't grieving at all.
No. And I felt abandoned by him. And I was fighting for us, but I was fighting in the wrong way.
How so?
Trying to...
Oh, guilt him into it or beat him into it, shake it into him?
Yeah, just go, what are you thinking? You're doing... Because we grew up in that lifestyle.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like, here it is.
Right. Look at yourself.
Because our son died, we're going where we never wanted to go.
Right.
And it was devastating, and I made it worse.
Wow. When were you able to tell yourself that? That's a big statement.
When I finally surrendered and got on my knees and crying out to God, saying, I don't know what to do. He's going to die, or our marriage is going to end. I just don't know what to do, Lord. And he told me, you were talking about your vision earlier. He spoke to me, and he said, it's not your battle.
Whew.
He goes, it's my battle.
Yep.
He goes, Kim, just love him. Show him mercy and grace like I've shown you. And so I said, okay. And from that moment on, things just gradually got better and better and better. Even when he was still drinking, our marriage, God was repairing our marriage.
Okay. Did you feel that, Mike? Did you feel that? Or were you so far into your alcohol you did not feel that?
No, I think I did. Because, the pressure came off.
Okay.
And that's when I would be saying, blaming her. Remember, I've said it before, she was trying to help me wean off and just stop. And I agreed, gave her my keys, my wallet and all this, but I had a extra set of keys in the dresser drawer.
Yeah.
But
you had stuff hidden in the helmet.
Oh yeah.
Okay, Kim, hey, one thing he lays it out there. I mean, he gives it to us.
Well, one thing. Okay, I got to stop because I got to ask this question. From that time you.
No, when was that time, Kim? When you surrendered?
God bless it. I'm going to throw this fucking book at you. Stop reading my brain. From the time you were on your knees giving that prayer to the time that Mike called you and said, I'm headed in. How long, can you put a time frame on that?
I wish I was more of a journaler, but it was probably, we started going back to church again 3 years ago on Easter.
Okay.
And almost every Sunday, and we were involved in some epic groups, they call them, and
that's what she would tell Mike. Just don't say nothing.
I was thinking the same thing.
Just don't breathe.
I was thinking the same thing.
Just don't talk.
Just don't talk to nobody. Here, eat a mint.
Oh, I did say that a few times. But my faith was growing stronger, and my prayer life, and I'd say 1.5 2 years.
Okay. I think there are two reasons why I asked that question. Is one, I felt that Katie had backed off. Katie had stopped trying to help me. She turned it over. She had to. My wife was dealing with, and I'm not trying to make this about me whatsoever, but this is just goes to show how strong God is in this, because my wife was dealing with two alcoholics in her life, very close alcoholics, one being me and her dad battling cancer all at the same time. She literally had to turn her husband over because the other two she had to deal with. She didn't have to deal with me anymore. So she turned me over, and I'm going to probably say I'd have to ask her probably about a year before I finally.
When we get them on,
right.
the two wives,
right.
Well, we're going to hash all that.
It's going to be an
out.
interesting question, because honestly, until you said that, how you said that, I firmly believe that Katie had to do the same thing. Yeah. Because as she was pressuring me, there was no way I was going to, the harder pressure she put on me.
Bring it into the light. Right. I love it.
Well, the more she tried, the harder that was my excuse.
Right.
You made me have to go get more beer because you only left me 3.
Right.
And it's your fault.
Of course. Selfish at page 62.
And she didn't know about this vodka for a while that I was sneaking.
Right.
She found out, because she's like a ninja. She just pops up and so that was her fault too.
Right.
Catching me. But then, I could still see her face that she was like horrified look. And
I'm going to ask a couple other questions because I'm going to try and get to something that Mike brought up. But tell me about some of the scariest moments that, if you can think of a couple scary moments of things that you caught Mike doing or signs that you saw Mike that just literally scared you.
Like, is this the day? Is this the day I'm going to bury my husband now? Because I don't know. Or was it just consistent?
One time where this strange man showed up on my front porch, and he was telling me that my husband was on his way to the hospital because he came upon him. He was riding a bike.
Oh, we heard the bike story.
Biker. And that he found my husband sitting on the tailgate of our truck, and he had cut himself. And he was just sitting there, and the man, talked with my husband and called the sheriffs, and Mike went into the hospital. That was one.
Not voluntarily.
A couple times, Mike went in the hospital, pancreatitis. I don't know if I can say the other one.
Okay.
You don't want to say it, or because we've already talked about some things.
I know what it's probably about. Do I?
Maybe.
When you caught me with the bag? Yeah.
No.
No?
The rope?
Close.
Like I said, remember that we can cut stuff out if we need to.
Oh, I forgot.
Right. I mean, if we need to cut some stuff out and you're not comfortable with it after we speak about it.
I'm open.
Right. Well, and remember, these are healing. This is for healing. And not only for you guys, but we go to a lot of listeners that may need to hear.
I've used the mic when Jason's not available. And Mike's been gracious enough. We was Matt and Mary. Maybe if you listen to the podcast, there's another gentleman I sponsor. They lost their child last year. He went through a year, not even quite a year, 4 months of cancer, brain cancer, 6 to 7 years old. And I've used Mike more than one time to help me help him, help Matt, because father. And it's been amazing.
So please feel comfortable to talk about it because it's healing.
Because those two, they're going to listen to this.
Right.
Yeah, I was, probably 4 years after Michael passed. And I walked outside. It was morning time and was looking for Mike, and came outside the garage and around the corner, and he had a bag and a pipe. And I just fell to my knees and couldn't believe what I was seeing.
How did you confront him with that?
just asked why. How could you? This is the worst of the worst in my eyes.
Taking you back to your childhood. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And worse, because you see the people today. I don't know. I think drugs are totally different today than they were when I was a child.
Yes. Yes.
They do more damage, I think.
Laced with just all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
So I just, my life was just unraveling.
Do you remember that, Mike?
Yeah, I can remember the look on her face.
What do you remember how you felt when she caught you?
Well, it's hard to say. I felt what a dumbass at first because I was standing right out there in the open.
Almost like you wanted to get caught.
Yeah, I mean, I'm standing right out
That's
there.
the shit we think about.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that comes to our mind.
I don't know if that was the first thing. The first thing was just
Pick a better hiding spot.
that. How was I going to get out of this?
Right. Thank you. That's the insanity of the brain that we have,
The
right?
addiction.
That's the addiction in us. How am I going to spin this?
Yeah.
How am I going to spin this to make it not look so bad? It's my first time. Just all kinds of thoughts go into your head.
But I know that I could see the broken heart in her face.
What does Jason say? The incomprehensible demoralization that he saw on her face. Yeah.
In Kim's, yeah.
Right. His wife was named Kim too.
Well, yeah.
But I seen her, yeah. I could picture that face still. And that breaks my heart today. Then it did too, but probably just for a minute because I was still going to go about killing myself.
Oh.
But I had to smooth this out somehow. And it just went, she didn't know what to do. I remember she called my brother. She was trying to get anybody involved that could maybe help because she was at the end of her.
Did an intervention.
Right.
Didn't work. I just ended up pretty much nobody helped. Nobody helped.
And she was trying her best to get anybody that could help do anything.
But now, what does that sound like when your friend started the podcast?
This is why I love Rob and me on this because Rob's over there reading my brain right now because literally
Which is why the podcast
talked
started.
about why this podcast started is because when we see somebody in that addiction, even though
we know there's nothing anybody on this earth can tell him
when
until he's ready.
When I was deep in my drinking, there wasn't not a fucking thing anybody was going to say, do anything that was going to drag me out of that until I wanted to come out of it.
Human beings move at the speed of pain.
Right.
Well, I'm going to just add one little bit to this getting caught with the bag. My brother comes over. I'm just running around like hiding or whatever.
That was a different time.
Okay, well, whatever. She tried to show him what I was doing, and he's like not into drugs, doesn't drink. And I remember I was coming out of the bathroom in our laundry room, and he had that bag, and they were talking.
Bag of heroin, I'm going to assume.
No.
Meth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I seen him looking at it, and she's like crying, and she's still trying to get help, trying to get somebody to help do something. And I'm walking by, and I look down and see it in his hand, and I snatched it and said, "That's mine." And I walked by her and left.
Wow.
Because that was more important right then than staying and hearing whatever I was going to hear, which was not, like you said, this wasn't going to happen.
For me, I just want to speak. I knew I was fucked, right? I knew how deep. I didn't need somebody to continually tell me how deep into addiction I was. Mine was just alcohol. I thank God that I didn't get to that part. My depression was so bad that I was perfectly happy with my alcohol to a certain point. I didn't want to go around. I wanted to go about that low and as far as I wanted to go. I didn't want to go below that. So, but I knew how big of a piece of shit I was. I knew it. And I think Mike kind of knew at that point and didn't care.
No,
I was happy right there.
Like when people talk about hitting their bottom, I say I went to bottom and just stayed there.
Drug along the bottom.
Yeah, I just stayed in the bottom.
Right.
And I think the meth came into play with, however it came into play, it was like an antidepressant, I thought. Like I was up, but it just kept me able to drink.
Function. Right.
Keep
Came
drinking.
into play
Right.
because he blamed me for this one too.
Uh-oh.
Because he was no longer getting prescribed Vicodin.
Okay.
Oh, that's
I was
right.
just getting ready to ask you about that.
Yeah.
Honestly, if Vicodin was a part of that, was a part of that.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
But see, here's where because I never play with meth, but I know what they both
It's never
do.
too late.
But shut up, you fucking dick. Damn guy. Hey, but so you went from Vicodin to meth. Isn't that going the other direction?
Well, I don't know. They say Vicodins have different effects on different.
Right.
What it does,
Okay.
what it did when I was going through cancer, they tried to manage my pain with different, because it was ungodly. And I tried Norcos. And what it did for 2 days, I couldn't sleep. I was just, it felt to me, it felt like back, and I was like, why the fuck
That's how
did I
they
like
worked
this?
for me.
Just
They wired you.
wide open.
Really?
So I couldn't do
Okay.
that anymore.
I take, this is one of the main reasons why I'm not a big fan of taking pain pills. They put me out. I take one and I'm out for 4 hours. Out. That's why when I hear people talking about taking handfuls of these Vicodins, I'm like, I'd be fucking dead.
Some people,
Well, you got to build up to that.
they'll pass out, but in the end, I was a 30-day thing from the doctor. Didn't even last a little over a week.
Okay.
That's
All
why
right.
Michael had pancreatitis as well.
For the pills.
From the
pills
pills.
and-
Drinking and pills.
Right.
And because I would start my day with 8 Vicodins to 10s, chew them up my mouth, and 6 or 8 beers at 3 or 4 in the morning.
Right. Yeah.
And he went to the doctor every day, just about.
To get more pills.
That and sometimes asking for help. And I still got more
What
pills.
do you mean by asking for help?
Telling him I needed to get off these before.
Okay.
And then he prescribed me something worse, methadone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then how many are you drinking a day? Because I went and said I'm drinking too much. And I said, who counts?
Yeah. I said that. I gave that.
I'm not an
answer.
accountant, motherfucker. I'm an alcoholic. Who counts that shit?
And basically,
The wives do.
Yeah.
Guarantee you the wives do.
I played every game like,
So here's, I can just picture, here's Mike, because this is what we are. You come in, I can't, okay, you're having pancreatitis. No more pills for you, Mike, and no more drinking, because you got pancreatitis. Okay, I'll keep the drinking. I'll get rid of the pills. I'll start meth. And then, Kim, that's how we think.
I didn't like methadone.
What did that do? This is the
I've
first time
heard
I've
that.
heard about this.
Well,
What did methadone do? I know what it is, but what did it do to you?
It would make it like Larry thought, you just
Sit there and count your heartbeats.
go out.
Who the hell wants that?
Yeah. And so I dumped them and
because it would put you to sleep. Methadone would.
yeah, and I didn't like it the way it made me feel,
Right.
even if I could stay working on it, but I never took 8 or 10 at a time like I would Vicodin.
That's the other question I wanted to bring up. And sorry, I think I'm going to. Were you still working at this time? Full time?
Well, how long? Because you're 62 now. How long have you been retired? Kim, how long has he been? He's terrible with dates and times.
It's probably, I've been working 8 years now. So it's probably been about 5.
Okay.
Okay. So the last 5 years, when you retired, you really had to go off the rails.
Oh, yeah. All day long. I was doing it when I was working.
Is that when you were?
Well, that's what
Because
I was
not as
there came a time
bad.
where I was getting
But-
rationed. Is that when you were rationing him towards the end? When he would get his 3 beers and
That was just trying to help him.
Not DT.
Yeah. Because he said
Towards
he
the
wanted
end, before I went to
he said
rehab,
he wanted to stop. And
that's when I let her take my wallet, my keys. She didn't forcibly. I said, take them, because in my head, I wanted to quit.
Right.
Like I said, I'd be praying to God to take it away, and I was puking out a beer, reaching for another one.
Right. Yep.
And that was right not long before I went in. I guess I'd been calling the rehab for, I thought, a couple weeks. And when I finally got there, they said, try 3 months.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I had been calling them, gonna come in, had these assessment dates.
And they kept calling me.
And would never show.
Answer, though,
and she was pissed. She said, if you're not going to go, tell these people to quit calling me.
Yeah, good.
Wow. So you were flirting around with that for a while. You know, towards the end, I can remember several mornings on the way to work, because my drink time was, I had an hour and 15 minutes drive. And that's when I would do, that's when I woke up, right? I'd have at least a 6-pack and a half pint before I got to work. And that's how I woke up, right? I couldn't wake up without that. I didn't think. About 3/4 of the way to work is when I'd be just crying and praying, God, stop this. Stop this insanity.
Okay, now I want to jump on, because he said the same thing.
Right.
And we had talked about this. You were when Mike was at the Monday meeting. When we're there, Kim, the alcoholic, the addict, when we're in that moment of crying to God, we mean it. When we're saying, baby, I'm sorry, I'll never do it again, we mean it to the bottom of our heart. But what we didn't know was this: lack of power. Page 45. Lack of power. That was our dilemma. We had to find a power by which we could live, and it had to be a power greater than ourselves, obviously. But where and how were we to find this power? Well, that's exactly what this book is about. That's why when we were telling in the Monday meeting, when you're on your knees saying the 3rd step prayer, asking God for help, and you think, well, God doesn't show up. No, he didn't show up. You know why? Because that's all you ever did. You hit your knees. You never got back on your feet and tried to help yourself. You never got into action. Lord, this is how serious I am. So, of course, he's not going to answer. You can't pray for a fucking hole while you're leaning on a shovel. He's going to say, son, I gave you a tool and you've got 2 arms. Start digging. Yep. But we never start digging. We just want God to do all the heavy lifting. And he will if we'll do the action. And that's what we've never done. And Mike said, we mean it, but we didn't realize we didn't have the power. And we had to not just surrender, but get into action. Hey, I need help.
And that's the biggest thing. Even, I walking somebody through, right? Trying to get somebody through the steps. My first time walking somebody is getting them to understand that, like, this guy is 41 years old. And I've told you, like I say, and I've heard Rob say this, you're 41 years old. How's it, how has it worked for you so far? Not relying on something else beside yourself, right?
Your best thinking got you here.
Got you right here.
How about try something else? Right. Just God thinking, which you've already found.
Yeah. I mean, so.
You would not.
Took me a while too.
But you wouldn't be here. You guys wouldn't be together. He would not have a wife. He'd probably be dead had you not leaned on him, leaned on our Father. It wouldn't be here. I mean, he's got, let's be honest. That's why Dr. Bob wrote that. We didn't have, not that everybody has that wife, I know, but we do.
Oh, no,
we do.
We do. Oh, for sure.
I wouldn't be here.
Yeah, and
thank you.
Yeah, the ones that come into this program broken without wives and without, that have lost everything, you tend to, because going
they
off
didn't
of
lose it. They threw it away.
They gave it away. Sorry, you're right. Words matter. I hear what Rob says, and then I look back and I think about these guys that have lost their wives, lost their kids, lost everything, that nothing stuck with them. And you tend to ask yourself, was it just not God's timing for them? Was God not in the way of the woman that left? You hear that kind of stuff, but then I think back, all I can say is thank God. Thank God. For me, and Katie's told me this straight point blank, if I'd have lost my job, she would have been gone, right? The only thing keeping her is, she loved the man. She loved the man I was prior, and I was keeping a roof over her head. And if something would have happened, she would have had to leave, right? And then it would have been up to me what I'd done. So, I wanted.
Well, with me, because he wasn't working. And he hadn't yet, he still hasn't touched his retirement, and with me, he was sick, and he was hurting, and yes, it was tough, and sometimes I had people tell me, you should leave. Sometimes I felt like leaving, but I said vows.
Yep. There you go. Right there.
And And I needed to honor those vows, and that's how I felt. And I, like your wife, I know the man.
Right.
I've always known him.
The potential.
Yeah, and he's never known it.
That's not what you married. That's what Katie would always say. That man that you became was not the man I married.
And, he had 2 sons, and I'm not excusing him, but he's been through a lot. Not that people aren't, yes, I was through a lot too.
Right.
But I didn't break like Michael did. Michael broke. And he didn't want to.
And only God could fix him.
Only God.
And you had to turn him over.
I did, because I was making it worse. And what's the verse? Lean not unto your own understanding.
Mm-hmm. Trust in the Lord and lean not on your understanding. So, Proverbs.
So yeah. Let's lighten things up a little bit. Let's go on to the recovery.
Okay.
I mean, I'm going to do one more thing. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to preference why I'm bringing this up. And one of the things that made me, one of the things that really wanted me to get Mike's story, obviously I knew the story and I wanted it for the listeners. But when I was like, I'm getting Mike on, I don't care what I have to do, I want Mike's story, is when he told me about, and once again, I can cut this, when you caught him making a noose. Mm-hmm. And if we can talk about it if you want, if you don't, Kim, because when he told me that, there was a red barn on my way to work, and I knew that, and it was on a big S turn, and I knew that if I kept going
165.
straight, I knew if I kept going straight that I could pretty much take away my misery, and it would look like an accident. And it would look like an accident, and it'd only make things worse at home. But I knew I could end my misery. Katie never caught that. She never heard that until after. She didn't realize how deep into my depression I was until after. Thank God I came out of it. But when you saw that, what was your
and was this before or after the meth? What was the time frame when you saw this?
And I made a mistake. The meth came in about 5 years after Michael's accident.
Okay.
I want to say it was after.
I don't know.
And honestly, I try to not remember that.
Okay. Katie would be the same way.
I can tell you, I can remember the look on her face.
Was it the same look?
The same.
It was just shock, and if I'm real, I thought about going head on.
Okay.
With vehicle, just like the accident.
Right.
That my son was in.
Okay.
And then we were in Vegas and caught him once again with meth. And I took all his diazepam. Tried to take my life.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay.
So I struggled too here and there with just wanting to end it, just not have the pain anymore myself.
Okay. You okay, Mike?
Yeah, I just probably haven't forgot about that, but I tune it out. But
we are good compartmentalizers.
Yeah.
This is
Thank you, Kim.
I do that.
Absolutely, Kim.
Well, you have to. I mean, if you want to survive something like that, you have to be able to somewhat.
Then it's just like the third time sitting there, I can remember her face. When I came in the room and she, I can remember. Because I had her in the shower screaming at her. And she just had this, she was just so done. She was crying, and I remember she looked like a little girl. Like like a young little girl, just with these big eyes, crying, saying she wants to die. That was like all bad. I can still picture her in the shower. And I'm yelling at her, trying to get her up. Got the shower on. She got all her clothes on. And she just didn't want to get up. She just said, I'm done. I want to just go. And then the cops. I think I had to call 911 or something. Because I couldn't get her to get up.
Okay. So I'm glad I went down that. I really am. Because now we're going to jump I mean, here's the thing.
But it's always darkest before the.
Oh my gosh. Right. And
I'm so sorry. You don't know. It's the hardest part. And this stuff is forgiving myself. I know you forgive me. But I know how, but I want to tell myself I don't know how you can forgive me. But I know how you do.
How's that?
Through her faith in God and her belief in the marriage vows we took and how she really knows me. And I just thank God he gave me somebody that's stronger than me.
right.
I don't know how many people would say that.
Right.
My wife's way tougher than a 17-year-old Marine thought he could never be broken. But that stuff broke me beyond something I never dreamed from anything that happened in my whole life. But she stood stronger than I ever did or could without her. Period. I would definitely be dead.
Absolutely.
I know I would, because that would have been it. And all I did was try and push her further and further away so I could just stay in that misery that nobody could help, and I guess the more I pushed her away, that I guess deep down in that darkness, it was going to all be better off for her if she left, But I knew deep down in that darkness, it'd be the end of me if she left. But I just thank God for her. She's an awesome woman.
That's why I do this podcast, for the recovery. It's to the joy we get, right? And Michael, and you may have already seen it, but the joy that Rob and I get out of watching this it's unexplainable. The joy I get. It's not that the joy of seeing the pain, it's the joy of the coming back out. And that's why I want to go to here. The day you dropped him off, I can remember watching my wife and kids drive away and the pain on their faces. I don't know if it was pain or joy when they were driving away. When you dropped him off this last time and you had to drive away, can you explain that feeling?
I did it 6 times.
Well,
and I understand, but this time you knew.
Right, she didn't know she was hopeful because it was different.
This time was different. I was hopeful, joyful. Mike's demeanor when he was joking around in there before he was angry, wasted. This time he wasn't. He had drank, of course, but he wasn't wasted. They did a breathalyzer on him and they said, you're not even drunk.
Damn it. Go try some more. Okay, I'll be back.
Yeah.
And usually he would. He was like, go in there. And
they're the ones that said, take an Uber.
Right.
Because I was always drunk probably every time I talked to him.
I remember talking to everybody after I had dropped him off, family, and because our niece was close with him at the time, and just telling them that his whole demeanor is so different this time.
Right.
He's ready. He was cheerful. He was joking around. He wasn't angry. It was so different.
It just gave me chills. Yeah, because I mean that. And Mike, do you remember that feeling change for you when you got in there? Do you remember? Reason why I asked that, because I very, very vividly remember that moment when I knew that I was going to be okay. Do you remember that?
Probably wasn't right. Probably within a couple of days, because she could tell you exactly how the first day went. That I was having a crazy anxiety attack. Couldn't sit. I was walking their parking lot until 11 o'clock that night, back and forth. Half me wanting to run out the gate just to be back home.
Right.
I wasn't thinking about drinking. I was thinking about
her.
And here I am again.
That's how I felt the first day of recovery.
I mean, first day was
1,000%.
terrible. Yeah. And they had meds coming and all that, so you don't DT and whatever. And I was like shaking, but I wasn't like, get the ambulance ready. But that's what she was worried about when she was leaving me 3 beers that I drank before she left to work. And went to the store as soon as she left to work. But probably, I don't know, I settled down second or third day and started working the program I knew that they had. I always say beat into you the whole time you're in 30 days. It's AA or NA. Do this, do this. It's the whole thing's
You
about.
knew the routine.
I knew the routine. I could teach it. And I started actually.
You just couldn't live it.
Yeah. That was not for me, But I started. The whole reason, we talked about God being, like you said, I pray to God for a hole, and he gave you a shovel, and I'm praying and puking, saying, God, take this away. Well, I've said it in the meetings that he made me willing to take my butt to rehab. Mm-hmm. And so God was in the whole thing. He was taking it away, but he knew I wasn't going to quit. I mean, while I'm praying and grabbing another beer, he's like, okay.
Yeah.
Or like you've heard people say, I asked God to help me quit doing drugs. He put me in jail. Something like that. It's like, so God he work in mysterious ways. Right. And I believe he works in our program with you guys. Yep. God uses people. And a lot of people don't get that.
That's where I hear him, through you guys.
1,000%.
Jesus went and made disciples, right? Why? Right. To go out and help people.
Right.
To go out and be the hands and feet. And that's what the rooms are full of, even if they don't know it or are fighting it, the God thing. It's how we're getting help.
Right.
And so I started working my program in the program right when it started. And the first thing God did with me, and she would help me out with the phone too, praying for people, because in rehab you're surrounded by idiots, right?
He's not lying, Kim. He's not lying.
No, bunch of losers,
people not like me.
Yeah, but so much.
That's what I thought.
So much drama and things you want to just get. This ain't where I should be. So I prayed for patience. I actually I'd walk the parking lot praying for the people in there that I wanted to choke. Or
page 552 right there.
Or that I couldn't stand listening to or looking at.
I was one of those when he got to the rooms.
I didn't want to choke you.
What do you mean was?
I am.
Thank you.
No, but so my 30 days went easy. I was willing, like they say in the open-minded, willing. And a lot of it started in there just taught me how to listen. I'm still learning. Like I said, I hear great, but I don't listen that good. Ask her. But in the rooms, I've had to learn that. Yeah. Because the first time I ever tried AA, I think I made 2 meetings and said, I'm out of here. This is all drama. BS, and I never went back. Like,
Go ahead.
I can. Sorry, my mouth was dry.
You can have a drink if you want.
turn your head and drink, babe. Gulp, gulp.
No, what came to my mind is he was originally going to come out after a couple weeks.
Okay.
Was the original plan.
Oh, yeah. Forgot.
And when those couple weeks
this.
came up, he chose to stay.
That was the switch.
That's huge.
That was the switch.
Yeah.
There it was.
I forgot because I was huge. That's why I said she's going to be great because she makes me, and she knows times, dates. She was going to Ecuador on a mission trip. And I was starting to freak out. I'm in rehab. She's going to Ecuador. I'm not going to get to see her off to the airplane. So I'm wigging out. And then we just talked about it. And then I chose to stay.
So did you leave? You went to Ecuador while he was in?
I did not end up going.
Oh,
I think it was not in the plan. I think the plan was for me to
That would have been a rough for him to come home to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the plan was to go to Ecuador before he ever went into rehab.
Gotcha.
And I think it was his plan, so I wouldn't go.
Damn it,
No,
Mike.
but she was going to be gone while I was in there, but be back when I got out.
Gotcha.
But if I would have got out in 2 weeks and she left to Ecuador, I would have been done.
Yeah, that would have been rough.
It wouldn't have last. I would have not stayed sober. So I chose to stay. Well, don't know.
Right. We
I
don't.
doubt it. But I chose to stay even before we knew that she got sick and wasn't able to go because she didn't want to jeopardize anybody else.
Or be in Ecuador sick.
No, for sure.
So it was a God thing.
Always.
And yeah, it was just like, it was a big turnaround. Being open-minded and willing and actually doing what they said every single time I was in there. And this last, they always tell you only 2%. I still don't get why they say this. Only 2% of you are going to make it, right?
Yeah, it's because it's a fact.
Yeah.
It's fact.
But when you're down and out and you're like, you say you walk in with your ass in your hand or whatever, and to hear only 2% of them, hey, thanks for the hope, pal. Thanks, And by the way, 99% of people that lose a child, their marriages don't last. Oh, thanks for that one too.
Right.
And they told me that when I was on intake up at Maynard's.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, thanks, bud. Mm-hmm. That's great to know.
See, but when I heard that, because they told me, they said the same thing. I happened to be one of the oldest. I was 38 at the time when I got sober, 14 years ago. And there's a young lady sitting next to me. She was the same age. We were the oldest. And this asshole who went to primary purpose at the time, I didn't know that. I met him like 6 months later at primary. He said, yeah, most of you aren't going to make it. And I turned to her and said, fuck this guy. I'm going to make it. I've just out of spite, because that's how alcoholics and addicts are. I've just out of spite, watch this. I'll be that one. And by God's grace.
See, was it?
Yes.
It was.
Last night, I might have been at that book study when I said, they said 2%. And I said, I'm going to be one of the fucking 2%.
Yeah.
Period.
Which is something you didn't say the previous 6 times or 5 times.
No, I just was thinking I got this for a couple weeks.
Right.
So, Kim, the last 8 months of this.
Thank you, Rob.
Come on, tell me.
God, you know what? Her face. She doesn't need to tell you.
Well, I
Did
know,
you not
but
see her
she's got to tell the audience because they can't see the light. I see it. I see the light.
Oh my God! There's one right there. We'll leave. Yeah. Her face was just incredible.
He has a joy. He has a joy.
I don't get that.
Oh my
You do,
God!
though. You don't see it. We see it. I see it.
I've only known you for 8 months, and I can see it. For God's sake.
He has a joy that he's never had.
Oh, man.
Before the accident, before Joe's accident.
Hey, my wife says the same thing. I guarantee you I'm not the same man that I was even 20 years ago because of those steps that I did. Because of it.
And he's working them. So keep going. Come on, tell him.
He doesn't, he's, it's like he knows he's loved. And so he has worth.
Yep.
And he's making positive choices and We used to joke because he'd be the glass half empty person. I'm the glass is half full. And
Overflowing.
Now we joked the other day. It's like, no, our cup is overflowing. It's no longer, half empty, half full. It's overflowing, and
Promises.
he's. I'm a lucky woman.
Oh, I was going to fill in the
You've
blanks.
earned it. You've earned
I'm
it.
a blessed woman.
You've earned it.
Now the question is this, I mean, we're talking after 2007, all that to this, just 8 months, 8 months. Is this 8 months worth all of that to have this now? I mean, cause you went through a lot. Now you see this, I mean, I'm sure there's going to be more than, hope we all make it home, but is it?
Yes.
Isn't that something?
It is.
All
It
that
is.
pain.
Our marriage is so much stronger. And it's always been strong. Even at its weakest moments, it
It had to have something because you wouldn't be here.
it was strong. And our love was strong, I guess I would say, even though you might not see it. But now we've always been best friends, but now we're just, and life is life. Who knows what it's going to bring. But I know he and I, with God, of course, will survive.
Now, aren't you glad all those many years ago when he showed up at the door and looking around the other gal saying, I'm here to see that one. Aren't you glad you didn't climb on the couch?
That's so funny because Mike and I don't know if he told you this, but the day we met, our conversation was about family.
Yeah.
Well, he said that day because one had a license and no car, one had a car and no license, and he was after that one. And he said the day I met her, he goes, I knew that was.
Yeah. We talked about God and we talked about family.
He also said that when he picked you up from the Nutcracker to take you out on your break, that when he called, you didn't even know who that Mike was.
Yeah, Mike who?
No,
Mike who? He said.
You got that wrong.
Oh, what?
Let's
See?
It was the second day, the day after I met him,
Okay.
that he called me. And
At work.
Yes, and I wasn't expecting
I'm sure
him
not.
to call me.
You probably had orders in your head that you were trying to get out.
Yeah,
Who the
so
fuck is Mike?
yeah, I never get personal calls at work, and he's like, "This is Mike," and I'm like, "Mike who?"
I made a great impression, didn't I?
I shrunk.
Yeah.
Did he tell you what he said after that?
And then what'd he say?
He said, "Well," he goes, after we talked last night, I couldn't get you out of my mind. I thought about
Look
you.
at
No,
you.
he did say that on the podcast. He did say that. Yeah, he did.
Okay.
I thought about you all day. He goes, I wanted to know if you'd like to get to know me better.
Yeah, he
That's
said,
right. You
corny
did.
is that?
You did.
That's awesome.
That ain't corny at all. I don't think so. So, once again, I'm sitting over here just about bawling because this right here is 1,000% why we do the things that we do, is to watch these families come back together, and even the people without wives or without husbands, to watch their lives and those promises that we speak about all the time, to watch those promises to start coming back into our lives. I wanted to bring up a couple things, and Kim, you've been amazing. You really have. We're not done. I'm getting ready to go into another thing that we brought this up, and I'm going to talk to Mike just for a couple minutes. We can't start loving others until we learn to love ourselves. And I've seen Mike from the very beginning, when he first started coming into the rooms with a man with a squeaky voice sitting in the back, barely able to speak, to a man that loves to share in the meetings. And I've watched him learn to love himself. And with that, he's learning to be able to give that love to other people. And he's become lovable, as you said, right? That was huge when you said that. He's become lovable. And I feel like that's when we work these steps and we do that. The other thing is that as we go, Mike, and some of you've said this a couple times, and we one of the biggest things that I had struggles with was, how do I forgive myself, right? How do I forgive myself? And my sponsor told me, Larry, you have to give yourself a living amends. You have to give yourself, every day I have to learn to look in the mirror and tell myself, I love you, right? We have to learn to love ourselves. And as we do that, the longer we do that,
we'll start treating ourselves differently.
We start treating ourselves.
He's got a great sponsor, Kim.
And he's
Amazing
a little
sponsor.
short prick, but he is a good one. And as we get stronger in that, those memories of that stuff, they don't fade. They're there, but we forgive ourselves of those things. There's still things that pop up to me every once in a while. Katie won't remind me, but she'll say some stuff that'll strike a memory in me. It's like, oh, fuck, I remember that, and I, but as they go, and I'm 3 years into this. See, I didn't say only.
That's right.
I did say it.
Good. I'm proud of you.
I'm 3 years into this, and I can tell you honestly, I've learned to forgive myself of a lot of that stuff, because that was not the man I am, right? That wasn't me, right? And as you go, Mike, and I've said this to you in the podcast, as you go along, and the more you get into the steps, when you get those steps through, and you learn how to put those steps in your day-to-day life, especially 10, 11, and 12, as we do that forgiving ourselves, it just comes easier and easier and easier every stinking time one of those memories come up, because I love those memories now. I do. I embrace them, because I know I'm never going to go back to being that piece of shit I was.
And we do not regret the past, because we use that to help the next man.
Absolutely.
When he started beating himself up, which, hey, again, and we shouldn't just, I know Christ forgive us, we throw everything under the blood and walk, but we should never forget that, because if we do, we'll repeat it.
Right.
And I'll be damned if I'll be that guy again, by God's grace. But the reason I wanted him when he first came in, and I knew who he was, and I've been hounding him, because he'd come in, had them steps coming. I knew not that his first sponsor was, but I knew who he had was not going to get through shit. Had them steps coming, Mike, how they just bugging the shit out of him for a reason, because I walked Jason through them. And I saw what they did in his life, because Jason came in broken, facing 9 years in prison, so when Matt, the gentleman I told you about, him and Mary lost their son, was struggling. Was this Mike about 3 months ago? And I said, we was at a Saturday meeting, I was taking Matt to breakfast a couple of minutes. We're going to have like a little intervention. And Mike was in the meeting, and I asked him, God told me, you know who needs to go with you. So I had invited Mike that morning. Hey, would you please go to breakfast with us? And he didn't even know that morning he was going to go, but those two would talk. And I was just eating my corned beef hash listening. But what he said the next day, when he came to the meeting, that him and his wife, had the first meaningful talk about Michael they've had in years, because he had opened up helping this man walk through what he'd been through, what he didn't walk through, but, some of the same, because they lived something that we haven't. So it was just amazing. But you guys got to have a talk for the first time in years about that, because of what he needs to walk through. And he is.
Well, just on that note, like yesterday, the anniversary, she's taking flowers and everything, and Jason's boy's like 25 feet away.
Right.
And so she put some flowers there. She did her flowers. And so I thought that was a hard day for me, period. And I should have wanted to be out there with her, but she did it after work, because now I'm able to go more often. I just can handle it a little better and be with her and let her, but it's still hard. When she came home, she just wanted to talk. And I was like, no, I want to talk. And it was getting later, and aren't you ready to eat and go to bed? I was like, aren't you ready to go to bed? I was trying to cut through. Probably just, I don't know what it was, but it's still hard sometimes when I see the hurt and the pain. I know she's feeling, but she goes through it right. She does it right. And for me, it's still, it's got easier, but it's still hard.
Well, what did you share today? This is the first one you've gone through sober.
Yeah. This day, the anniversary day, since it happened, I've never been not wasted. She'll be doing her thing at the cemetery. And like I said, the worst ever was the first time it fell on Mother's Day, which was like the second year or something. I can't remember. But so I just pushed her away even more. Mm-hmm. Because it was I knew what it would have to feel like, and I didn't want no part of it.
I can't imagine.
But I abandoned her, left her. The selfish and self-centered of the topic today. And Mrs. Bring It Into the Light Mike that calls me a narcissist.
But the one thing you said and shared, and me and Bonnie were talking about this, because it's not that fathers, we don't love our children, to the nth and would do anything. But what used to bother Mike, he would share, I don't know if you'd ever shared this with you, was that when he would look at you for 9 months, 10 months, you carried the boy. You breastfed, like while you watch it, the things a mother must feel. If I'm hurting this bad, I can't imagine, and then we can't.
And you guys are fixers too.
Yeah, and we can't fix it. You can't fix this.
1,000%.
Yeah, I knew I couldn't fix it, so I couldn't.
But hold on, you guys are fixers too. At times, I mean, I know my wife is. When I was going through cancer, there's one story, I don't know if I've ever shared. I might have. I'd wake up because I was off for 6 months and I'd have to sit up a certain way because they were cooking my neck, and if I sat too low, I'd choke to death, and I couldn't get any sleep because the pain was incredible. So my wife would go through and try to set everything at the certain. She'd get out angle finder I had, just to, and I'd come out sometimes, wake up because I could only sleep like 2 or 3 hours at the most, and I could tell she was crying. I never asked her about it because she couldn't even say the word cancer. It's been 5 years now; she still can't say the words. But we were eating breakfast at the place, at Riders where we were at, and I'd ask her, why were was it just overwhelming? COVID's going on, your husband's going through, you might bury him. She said no. I knew the pain you're in, and I always thought that if you were sleeping, you weren't in pain. But then I would hear noises in the back room, and I'd go back there, and you'd be wincing and crying, sleeping, and you're in pain. She goes, and I just broke. I can't. There's nothing I can do for him. He's in pain awake. He's in pain sleeping. And she goes, I couldn't fix it, Yeah. And I'd heard that story, and I was sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. See, yeah, I remember saying that I couldn't fix this. Just like I would say nothing would ever broke me. I mean, the way I was raised, you guys heard a little, then going
in. And you guys, the upbringing you both had, because he had shared a little bit about yours that we didn't have, that how you survived that to be this is amazing.
Yeah, that we came from going through all that crap that made you grow up thinking you're never going to be like that, never going to go through this stuff, never, ever, ever, right? Then it happens. And because I literally thought nothing can break me. I mean, we were both on our own since little kids, basically.
Right.
And we parented ourselves, she raised her brother and sister and all that as a real young person. And being so much alike and then coming together like that, most people think that's not going to happen, but it did.
But I've heard a lot of fifth steps, Jason Allen's, and his story. And we heard Nathan on here who had a childhood that's, people that go through that usually they're not sober. But Mike, as far as a man goes, the way he was raised, what he had overcome, Joseph, Michael, I've never heard a man, even though he didn't handle it the best way, obviously, he still survived enough to finally where God could get a hold of him. But I've never heard anybody that's went through, I couldn't do it, Mike. I mean,
I couldn't even fathom it. I can't even fathom it.
One time a pastor that's gone to Ecuador, he was a youth pastor.
Someone's got to go to Ecuador here because this is the second time.
Yeah.
I'm going.
She's going next one, but he went on to plant a church there in Ecuador, the youth pastor. And when he first got to know me, we were talking a little bit, and he got to know me and Kim just heard some. And the first thing you're thinking, and wonder what people are thinking, he just had this big, giant smile. And he said he was honored, to hear for this sharing or whatever. And then he said, when I got done saying something, he goes, and you're still here.
God's got a plan.
He goes, it's amazing. And I was like, what's wrong with this guy? Because I didn't think it was, but all he was hearing is he couldn't believe I was standing there and he was hearing it. And
because most people, Mike, don't make it that far.
Yeah, you don't. I guess you just don't think that way when you're in it.
No, you don't. We're not thinking when we're in it.
We're not thinking at all when we're in it.
You don't wish it on anybody else, but
No, hell no.
But like, I still remember what I love now is the big smile you seen a second ago that lights up the room. And I don't want to go back. And one of the biggest things I say that helps me, I just look at where I was for a moment of what it was like and what I did to that beautiful woman, how I broke her heart. And the pain in her face, I wouldn't trade it to go back to that. Because the only regrets I have in this life right now is that. That it's not, forgiving yourself, like you said, that's where we're at.
Right.
The hardest part for me is that, because I can't believe I did it to somebody that's my whole life.
But think about it this way now, for the living amends we're talking about, which is what it's going to be. You get the opportunity every day now to put that smile, to light the deal. So go. So
I don't
do
miss
it.
a moment anymore. I don't miss a moment.
Hell no. That's all we have is moments.
I was flying out to, I had to leave last Sunday to go down south. Kate and I got in a little spat just before I left, and it was minor. It wasn't even major. It was minor. And I left. I had to stop and get fuel in my truck. And as I was there, I was like, I got to go back home. I did.
Yeah.
I had to turn around and come back home because I could not leave like that.
Yeah.
I did for years left like that. Almost every time I left the house, I left pissed off.
Not fast enough.
Right. And I couldn't do it. I had to come back home.
We've had moments like that as well.
Recently. Yeah, see, this is that. Come on.
So for a little while after he got, I'd still have red flags, we call them.
Katie too.
Oh, he would tell us about these stories. Go ahead.
And, so I'm doing my normal thing going, what are you doing? And
it wasn't that nice.
and he'd get defensive but not anymore. He doesn't get defensive anymore. And I don't get red flags anymore is the amazing thing. But we got in a spat and he left, but then he came back and he's like, I'm sorry.
Yeah. We can't.
Totally owned it.
Right. We can't. Once we've been through these steps and we feel the relief it gives us, and we know the relief that it gives, for me, it's Katie. When I see that in her, you just can't I can't even explain it. Mike can feel it. Rob can feel it.
But for me, the Bible verse that sticks out, do not let the sun go down on your anger. Because that might be the last sunset. And is this how you want to end it? I mean, is your pride no, fuck no. I'm not going to let it end like this because of the joy.
Oh, the joy.
It's so much. I'd rather feel that. And I get that. And if I go own my shit, hey, babe, or even if it wasn't mine, I'll eat it anyway, even if it was all her. Because I won't.
I'm always eating the hers.
Well, good. Because
that's going down a whole other subject, Mike.
Yeah, jeez.
Let's bring it back to recovery.
Wait, hold on.
It's we are recovery. Explicit, but not that explicit.
No, I didn't mean it.
It's recovery unfiltered, so let's have it.
No, but it is great, though, because I did get pissed because that was what I've learned in the program, period. And I know it already, but it helps reaffirm it, hearing it over and over. Because I don't listen that good. I can
You've
hear.
gotten a lot better.
And it comes back sometimes subconsciously, things I've learned about myself or heard. And the defensiveness was because she was right. I got defensive because I got caught or whatever. That's every time I was pissed off, it was just because I didn't want to fess up or own up to something I did wrong. Even just the recent one, it's been a while, a red flag thing, and I got pissed just that she had a red flag.
Right.
What are you doing? I'm not doing, and I'm yelling.
Well.
And I'm like, then I back off and wait a minute. She has every right to have every red flag in the world for a long time if she wants. So just.
And that's when I first got home from Maynard's, very first day, Katie and I came home and I was going to primary purpose, and I'll never forget it. She's tracking me on her phone, which is fine.
Yeah, I still on like 360.
Well, I
14
left
years later.
here. And for some reason, when I got out of rehab, I was addicted to root beer. I have no idea.
Which brand?
A&W. There's only one kind.
Mug is better, dude.
Anyways, I was going into primary, and I stopped at a little liquor store that never even crossed my mind.
Right.
I stopped there to get an A&W root beer, and she literally called me. What are you doing? I'm like, what? And it dawned on me that
She's seen you.
She's seen me at the liquor store, and I'm like, oh shit, babe, I'm sorry. And literally, I stopped to get, and it was the same day.
FaceTimer, right? A&W.
You know, and to this day, I can't walk out in the garage without feeling. I can't, because when the door closes, I was always going out there to get beer, especially when she's in bed. Right? If she's sleeping early of a morning, if she's in bed sleeping early of a morning, I go out in the garage. I know that was her trigger. She knew that I was going out there to get beer early of a morning.
Even though we drank enough that night, we should have slept through the night, but that fifth didn't hold me over. Don't you know?
No. So yeah, I mean, and 3 years into it, she still gets triggered on some stuff. I don't know about trigger, but there's still things that remind her of the pain that she was going through. And I try my best to be cautious of those things that I know that's going to cause her to feel that way. I mean, I'll still catch my stuff doing and go, wait a minute, I can't, it's not that I'm on a way to drink. It's like, I don't want Katie seeing that because of that old behavior. That's what I was like.
It might elicit this feeling.
Right. It might cause that feeling.
And that's shit we would never think about.
No.
We don't think about nothing but ourselves.
And I worry about that stuff now because I don't want her feeling that anymore. And I don't know, and I haven't really spoke to her about it. I don't know if she's felt that way in a long time. I don't know, but I still know that I don't want her. That's why she doesn't want to come on the podcast. I mean, I talk to her all the time because she knows she's going to have to talk about those things.
Those things are those feelings.
And just like it's helped, I believe this has kind of helped you a little bit. We have to talk about those things because, Blake was over here the other day and he was having some issues. I'm like, well, dude, you got to talk to her. And he's like, I'm like, dude, you have to talk, communicate. It's how these things come up.
It's a conversation. Go have it. It's not confrontation. It's just a conversation. Right. Go have it. That's what I tell them.
Right. And I'm going to tell you, Mike, just continually communicate as much as you can. Kim, I'm going into the garage.
Into the light.
I'm going into the garage.
Like a freaking ninja. I'd be like, holy crap.
Where'd you come from?
It's like she floated in there.
I had there's a cabinet up above that because nobody can reach it except for my long ass arms. And as soon as I open up my garage door, I can reach up into that cabinet. It's where I'd always kept my whiskey up in there so I can grab a quick drink of it as I was walking out. I don't know, about a year ago, I opened that up and I haven't even been in there. I opened it up and there's still a half pint of Crown Royal in there. Right. And I saw it there and I'm like, Katie, there's still an empty bottle up here. I don't know what to do with it. I'm not touching it. But it's still up there. We walked down there and it's still sitting up there to this day. It's still sitting in there. Katie, the other day I went to get something out of there and I opened it up and I still see it sitting there. And I'm like, I just shut the door and I guess it's nostalgia reasons. It's still there. It's empty. I guarantee you look on a date of it. It's still 2022 or something. I don't know. But those things. But that's
the benefits of the program. That's the power of God to work in these steps, owning your own shit, having that spiritual awakening, which the thing that's talking to us all is the spirit that's inside us now that God has put there. And it's because we did the work.
And I have more alcohol in my house now than when I was drinking. Katie always says,
because you're not drinking.
Right. But
that wouldn't happen. I don't drink wine or anything.
No.
I did. But we had wine bottles for, people bring them for Christmas. Right. Like you don't even drink wine, but so they're up there, but they were all empty for some reason. And they were filled back up with water.
Like my wife's moonshine that I did.
Right.
And there was vodka. There was stuff tequila.
Hey, we didn't give a shit.
No, I'd pour stuff back in and put it back up there.
Anything to silence those voices. Anything to so I don't have to feel.
Amazing. I didn't think about how That should have told me right there.
Oh, we're
Okay.
insane.
Because I don't even drink that crap. But when there was nothing there, I'm opening these wine bottles that've been up there, souvenirs.
Drinking beer
from
only,
Hawaii.
limiting the number of drinks. Never drinking alone.
It's whatever it took to get us back to that feeling. It's just, for
or
me,
not
it was,
feeling, whatever.
I would open up a bottle of my wife's wine in the middle of the night, midnight, 1 o'clock.
Then I have to get up at 6 in the morning and go replace that. Son
Yeah,
of a
I don't
bitch.
even know if I've ever told that story.
You have.
I have told it
Oh,
on
yeah.
here.
Yeah.
It's insanity. I'd open up a bottle of her wine and I would drink it before I'd drink it like 2 or 3 drinks. It'd be gone.
Those dark bottles, you can't tell they're empty either
No.
when you put it back.
Well, and these bottles I thought were all hidden in the back and nobody would ever notice them because they'd been there forever. But sure enough, they would get noticed, right?
I hated when there was a cork. Why couldn't it be the cheap? I'd be like, oh, damn.
Or them old corks would break off when you're trying to be quiet.
And I don't
Just
have
hammer
enough-
it down
I don't
in
have
there
enough
and just
time.
go.
I don't have enough time to get the cork out.
Right. God,
You ever take a
it's-
punch and a hammer, turn it sideways, tap that cork in the inside the bottle?
Oh, I went inside like that, yeah, but wasn't with a hammer. I don't know how I did it, but I got it to go.
Insanity.
But yeah, I don't know what, I'm just glad you guys do what you do. And even before, when I met you guys in the meetings in the men's group, and I said it, I think last night, I said, this is what the meeting was all about. A couple hugs I got from people that remembered me saying a day or so before that yesterday was the anniversary. And I got a hug from Blake.
Did
He
you?
goes, we don't hug. And it was just me and him standing outside before the meeting. And I go, what was that about? And he looked at me like, gives me her look like, what are you, stupid?
Yeah,
And
you
I go,
needed it.
I looked and I go,
Or Blake
I
needed
didn't
it.
think anybody remembered, But then I said last night, this is what it's about. People that care, actually listen to you, and them getting to open up too. And one of my favorite things, I don't even know why I want to say this, is old timers, what do they want to call them, been around, say they love newcomers because they get to see how screwed up they look and that
It's a
they
reminder.
know it don't work.
Right.
To me, it's the opposite. I see newcomers, I love it. When I keep seeing them, I love it. When they don't show up for a couple of days, I found myself worrying about them, asking about them. And what it reminds me is not about how screwed up I was and how it still is, because I know how it is. I know how it was. It reminds me there's still people that need help like I do. That's all a newcomer is to me, is somebody that doesn't remind me, because I need them for myself to play that picture back. That's what I do. I look at myself puking. I look at her face, how it was, and I don't want to go back and see those things again. I would never buy tickets to see that movie over and over.
Right.
It's done. That one should get burnt, but I love seeing new people come in. They keep coming back, and it just does my heart good. I love it.
Like I said, going back and watching your light come on, especially when I found out who you were and knew what you had gone through, going, oh, this is going to be a fun one, and watching you just grow and grow and grow. And like I said, that one Monday night when I heard you say those things, and I'm like, he's got it. And I saw the light and the skin color and just everything. And then to watch Kim smile a minute ago, it's just gives me chills, and I just fucking love it.
That's
why we do
my
this.
goal in life now is, she goes, like she said today, we're joking, she goes, happy wife? Happy life. And she said something else too, I forget.
Yeah,
but
it's awesome.
I love to make her laugh and see that smile more than a grief and just terrible. And, it's like things have gotten so much better in 8.5 months, and they can only get better, and more will be revealed.
Yes, sir.
And it's awesome now. We have a lot of fun, and like we used to.
Right.
And probably even more so.
I want to say one thing, Mike. The pain's not over.
Nah.
Okay. I want to make sure, right? I mean, I don't know. I say that for this reason, because I believe that if everybody's expecting something, they're going to know how to handle it, right? And when I see these newcomers come in and they're on this cloud and they're just all over the place, it's like, come here, let me tell you a secret. Here's what's going to happen in about another 3 weeks, 4 weeks, right? That little balloon you're on, it's going to get popped. And how you prepare yourself right now, you're going to be prepared for when that balloon pops, right? The pain is still going to, I deal with shit still that it's just, I want to pull my hair out and I want to jump off a cliff, but I know there's one thing that's very important, that bottle, that whiskey, that alcohol is not going to fix it.
Nope.
It is no way in hell going to fix anything that I'm going to go through.
But God is.
Yes. And I know God in this program that I live is going to get me through anything, no matter what the hell it is. I do know. And that's the way I live my life. And
but also we're part of, we're part of the no matter what club.
Absolutely.
No matter what club. I don't care if your ass is falling off. We don't drink no matter what.
No matter what.
You know, what I thought about on that is yesterday was probably the toughest day. And I wasn't like Jones, and I would say I thought more about where I was and how I was this day.
Right.
All the other anniversaries. So it was like I was just in a little roller coaster, I guess. That whole yesterday was like
better than the merry-go-round you were on.
Yeah.
Amen.
But I just kept thinking about, I'm gonna get through this.
Right.
I'm gonna get through this. It's gonna be okay.
Right.
I prayed. Sometimes that's hard for me because my mind doesn't let me focus that long on God. And when I can, it's awesome. But it was a tough day. Like you said, the pain, it ain't going to go away.
Right.
But
it'll ease. How
I deal with it, accept it, life's on life terms, all that stuff.
There you go.
I hate saying all those phrases and things, but now they're pounded in. But it's true.
But now they make sense, don't they?
Yeah. And life's,
for sure.
When I said yesterday in a meeting, I think I said, my whole goal in life is to be in a coma, right? 24/7 was to not think about that. Like as if it didn't happen, even to the point where I made it almost like he never existed, my son. Right. That's how bad I tried not to think about it. It was, and then I'd feel so shitty about that you've actually pushed so hard to make it so much like it never happened, as if like he never existed.
Right.
And so I went thinking I wouldn't feel that pain.
But he did.
So the whole time.
And still touching lives.
That pain never went away. No matter how screwed up I was on Vicodins, any other drug, alcohol, in a coma. I don't even know how I functioned. Really, a half a frozen burrito a day is about what I choked
The human body is amazing.
And my whole goal was, I didn't care about nothing but not thinking about that. But I was never not thinking about it.
Right.
Yeah.
The whole time. Because if I wasn't thinking about it, I wouldn't have to keep doing it, right? But I kept, I mean, it's so crazy.
That's the merry-go-round that we're on, right? We drink to kill the pain, but the pain is still there, so we continue to drink. And it's just that shitty committee between our two ears. You know, once we realize that little fucking committee that's between those two ears are causing the problem, and we get outside of that and start helping other people, that all that stuff goes away. And what you two are doing today, the amount of people you're helping today by telling this story and coming on here is incredible.
Well, the guy in Lafayette, Louisiana. You know look how God uses his story last time to touch a guy in Louisiana, to reach out to Larry. And then we don't care to touch thousands. That'd be awesome. But if we can help one.
Right.
Yeah.
And
and God gets to choose the one.
Fayetteville, North Carolina is where he's from.
Oh, Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Yeah,
okay.
He's like I said, we and I want to make sure and say that because he's doing a great job. And your story touched him, and now he's getting help. And you know, this is why we do this, right? And I appreciate you, Kim, coming on here and being so open. I appreciate it. I think we went some places that you kind of weren't expecting, but like I said, you got comfortable, and it
is unfiltered.
It is unfiltered, and it's, you know, and once again, I do not want to leave here without asking both you guys, is there anything else that you want to talk about? Anything else you want to bring up?
I've had that itch for how long? No, not that I can think of.
I just want to make sure that, that you guys, what's going to happen is the same thing that happened with Jason and Jenny, because they when they left here, and same with Grace.
And Brad.
Grace and Brad.
Jason and Kim.
Matt and Mary. When they left here, the conversations
that they had on the way home.
On the way home, they kind of filled Rob and I in that it was some of the best conversations that they've ever had, because I think it almost teaches you how to, this forum, this little medium that we have here creates a conversation piece that carries on outside.
One thing that the Catholics get right, the only thing, and I shouldn't, okay, never mind.
Hey,
and I don't care.
Yeah.
And AA, confession, getting it out in the open. Now we have to deal with it, because here it is. Now let's have that. That's what God wants. Get it out here. Bring it in. That's what he said, because when he invitates you in the meetings and he does, bring it into the light, Mike, she would say, and he's animate about it. But
she's animate.
But there's a lot of truth to that, because let's have it. I mean, it's killing us.
Right.
But here
I can deal with the truth.
Here we can have
right.
it.
Lies.
The lies. Katie has said the same thing. Just tell me and let's deal with it. I think sometimes she would like to go, you know what, that's a little much. Just
no, and there's
give me a minute to process that.
There was a lot to that. There's a lot of discernment,
right,
as we go in the way we deliver, and when at the timing of when we need to deliver. I mean, and that's all a God thing as we learn and grow. But still, get it out. It ain't paying rent. Kick that shit out.
Yesterday, she came out with a pair of shorts on. She goes, these shorts look okay. And I go, God damn, girl, you need some sun on them legs. She was like, that's a little bit more truth than I thought I was going to get. Well, shit.
Did this make my butt look big, babe?
Well, we're honest.
Discernment, boys.
No, you know what? The only thing I thought of, what we started to talk about, which is probably my hardest part, is what she said too. And you were touching on it, forgiving yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And for anybody else listening, because I hear people say that besides me in the room. Said
a lot of people.
They are my biggest, for me, I said when they talk about this, and those guys that are always pushing the steps, you got to do the steps.
Like that fucking Rob.
Yeah, he's
little midget.
This guy Rob, yeah. But when you hear him talk, all the stuff about the steps and the resentments and get all that crap out. I think it's in the steps somewhere. My biggest resentment is me, right? And I've heard people say I'm ashamed or whatever. The shame and guilt, resentment is all. I mean, most of my step work is right here,
right.
Okay.
It was for me too.
And it's a lifelong process.
And,
Katie. Yeah.
And so when I say how I remembered the pain in her face on so many times and things we spoke of before that I wasn't even around when it happened, how I could never let that stuff go. Because how could I do that? I mean, she went through just real quick, the finding out about Michael.
You were in San Diego.
Yeah, by herself.
Right.
Was called by a cop on her phone to go home. They need to talk at home. She has no clue what the hell. And when I sit there and think of that, I'm down there. She has some cops say, go home, sit down. And, those things is hard. I can't see how forgiving myself and resenting myself for all the shit I put her through, because I basically was a coward, ran from it, ran from her, ran from all the feelings I didn't know how to deal with. And there's no book on it, period. But I did everything wrong that you could imagine to do wrong. And still, that's my hardest thing that I'm gonna have to.
And how are you finding that? How's that forgiveness coming? Because you've told me, if my Lord, can forgive me,
That's what I was gonna
if you can go to the cross for me, Rob,
that I was
And take the nails from me, Rob.
that he did all that to forgive me. And it takes me back to when I would say my getting saved was reading the Bible all by myself at a dining table by myself and read in Isaiah about the beating that Jesus took.
Now, you know that was written 800 years before crucifixion was even invented.
Easily 800 years before he existed, foretold it to a T, beaten beyond human recognition, beyond the form of any man. You could not recognize him. It's just everything they did to him, ripped his beard out, that
Spit on him, punched him.
and everything
Naked.
showing. And if I can't let go of it, then I'm slapping him in the face because that's what he did for all that shit I did. Not for me to keep doing it over and over, because then I slap him in the face. And that's a shameful thing too, because I did do that. You know, I kept doing it, saying I'm sorry and doing it again. But he's forgiven me forever from now till I'm done. So I have to accept it.
So he welcomes you into his kingdom.
Yeah. And if I can't accept that, which I can, then that's the dilemma. Like, how can I not forgive myself? Because I guess it's because I can't see how how he can do it and how she can do it.
So guess what? Tomorrow, son of a bitch, you got to put another smile on her face. You got to figure out a way to put another smile on her face.
Oh, yeah.
And then the next day, and then the next day. Oh my God,
Yeah.
that's what you have to do. And there's your penance, my man.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to what I said. As time goes, that what you're feeling, it's going to subside. And I think that Rob went through it and probably doesn't remember it.
Oh, I did.
Well, I mean, my point is he's 14 years, coming on 14 years. I still feel it, what you're feeling, but it's subsided because I'm a little bit further away. The further you get into your sobriety, that softens. You start,
because the more God we let in.
Yeah, the more you forgive yourself every day for those things. We don't forget them. We never forget them. But we forgive ourselves. When I can look at myself in the mirror and say, I love you. When I was able to do that, man, what a world of a change it was, because then I was able to do that outwardly more and more and more. Now I just want to give. I want to give everything that I have to somebody else. I don't want.
Oh, dude, that's the greatest part.
That is the greatest
that light turn
part.
on.
I just
and God
want to
allowed us to be a
give
part
it.
of that.
But I couldn't do that till I was able to forgive myself by looking. And that happened probably about 2 years in, Mike. It did when I was finally able to look at myself in the mirror and go, I love you.
And he said, you know what? I'm not as good looking as my sponsor, but Larry, I love you. It's all right.
I've heard that thing about looking in the mirror, and that's still.
It's hard.
Yeah, I can't do it.
You will.
I mean, they've had rehab. They'd make everybody go to that mirror before you walk out the door and make a positive affirmation. I'd go, whatever, walk out the door, whatever, and I go, it just always hit me wrong. Like, I just picture,
It'll hit you someday.
Self-love is like, to me, wrapping your arms around yourself, telling yourself you want to die in your own arms.
That's going a little far.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, it's
can
kind of mushy on me to where, I don't know, I have to be okay in my own skin.
Yep, there you go.
That's part
where I was. It'll come. I promise you. The more, let me ask you this. Where are you at in your steps?
4 or 5? 4.
6.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Look at her. She goes,
okay.
What the hell?
How did 4 go for you? 5?
Were you
Yeah.
good? Were you,
No. I know, but I mean 4 and 5. I mean, did you feel that? Did you feel a lot?
You know,
weight
I'm glad
come
you
off?
asked that, because I did, and I thought it was BS.
No,
Well, I wasn't.
It's not.
He's such a hard-headed motherfucker, dude.
I wasn't expecting it or even thinking about it.
Yeah.
But my asshole sponsor has I don't know. He's figured me out enough to where he knows exactly how to lead into whatever's happening.
It's a God thing.
Yeah. And then, sitting in his office, which is a dually Ford pickup, and and he tells me a little bit of his 4-step to try and you know, get me okay. And then, so I read what I got. And I said, okay, bye, and went to get out of his truck and leave. And he goes, no. And then, but I actually had to stop a few times. Actually, just in our talking, praying before it happened and all that, I was like losing it. I was crying. And then when I was talking about things, it would hit me and I'd have to stop reading and just squirt a little bit, you know, and put my head back and just get composed again and finish reading it and then talking and praying again. And sometime during all that, my mind went to, I felt something lifted off.
Yeah. It's an amazing feeling.
Like something off my back, off my soul, I guess.
Right.
That's it. That's soul cleansing, man.
That is it.
I actually felt a relief, like they say. And I mentioned that, and Tom, guess I can say Tom, said, did you feel a spiritual awakening, you know, like, because he explained to me too, which I did, but he explained to me, since we're Christians, we don't think we need that. We don't understand that in the book about a spiritual awakening. He goes, but there's another one.
Yes, we do need it.
We have our Christian spiritual awakening, but God has another one for us when we let go of all this stuff. And he explained that to me way before that. But I was thinking BS.
No, it's right.
But I'm telling you, I try to get, and I say this all the time, maybe these steps wouldn't hurt my grandmother, wouldn't hurt anybody.
No.
And I've taken people, not alcoholics, through them. And there's people because the best human beings I've ever met, and I go to church, and I have a church family, and I love them. But the greatest human beings I've ever met, the most sacrificial, the most selfless, I've met in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. Because, you know, usually people go to the people they say, you know, the religious people are afraid to go to hell. People of faith, people in rooms, we've already been there. You know, so, and that awakening, because I didn't change my theology when I came to AA. I had the same beliefs in Christ that I do now. However, I had to change my approach to him. And once I did that, this is how I live my life, by this little 164-page book. I know the other book just as well, but I live by this 164-page book because it's all God and it's all action. And just amazing people. Amazing people.
What amazes me is church needs AA and AA needs church.
I don't disagree with that statement.
Because
1 ounce.
The only difference is you hear, to me, is they always talk about this religious blah, 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 or how they were. You've even said I had it beat out of me when I was a kid.
Jesus beat out of me.
Yeah.
You get the Jesus beat out of you.
That's the wrong Jesus. That's the wrong church. And it's run by people.
Right.
And
humans.
they're messed up.
Humans.
And I go there to be taught, and I go to AA to learn and be taught too. I sit in the chair to listen and learn. And I go to church to listen and learn. But it's the people, to me, in church where it's open is most people are in AA because they want to be real and get this stuff off them and start living life again on life's terms. Another one of them sayings, but true. Can you imagine if the two collided, how it would be if you weren't just sitting there like trying to check a box that I'm in church? Right.
This is what I do on a Sunday, or what I had found when I went to a big, and anybody correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not wrong. I'm rarely wrong. Anyway, but Kim,
there's that humbleness that we love about him.
When you walk into a church building, which is what it is, the church is the people. And I've seen this at the big box churches. And as I came to AA, and how you doing this morning? Fine. Everybody's fine. Everybody's got their church face on. And this is the place we should go when we're broken to receive help. But this is what I'd heard in the rooms of AA. Everybody, what they gotten talked about behind their back. Hey, we need to pray for Kim and Mike because Mike's back drinking. You know, that kind of thing. They either have their church faces on or it was a gossip session. When you come to AA, everybody's broken and we know it. And we're open about it and we're free to receive and give help. That's what the church should have been, which is why I think God started this little avenue. I really believe that because this is what it should have been.
Maybe we're the ones supposed to bring it back to the church.
Maybe we are, Mike. And I've done it.
I mean, I have too.
Steve Newbaum is my pastor.
I love Steve.
Yeah. Steve was one of Michael's youth pastors.
And he had asked me, would you share your story, Rob? And I said, you don't want to make a lot of these Christians here uncomfortable. But I'll do it. He goes, maybe they need to be. Maybe they need to be. And I shook the shit out of that tree.
Our pastor is all about being real and life groups that are outside church. And if you're not in a life group, they're like, what's...
Well, that's where the growth happens. I mean, Sunday you come to feel, but that's where the growth happens. Be a part of.
Yep. Be a part and get to know. You don't get to know nobody sitting there, but in the other groups you do. But I was in rehab when ours was still going. It lasts for so many weeks. And so she told them, I go, you can tell them if you want. That's why I'm not there. And she said, no, they asked. And I just said, I'll let Mike explain that to you when he gets out.
Right.
And so my first day back, I said, hey, I just got out of rehab. And they're like, full disclosure. You know, and I just let them have
but
it.
we can do that. And can you imagine the freedom they would have?
Right.
I mean, there's not a, like, well, you didn't, Larry, cut it off because one of the Robisms is, you know, none of us, certainly not you either, but none of us have eaten a shit sandwich we didn't have a hand in making. And we sit there and live with those things.
Not my wife, not your wife, nor anybody listening to this podcast has eaten a shit sandwich.
Right?
Amen.
And how much more freedom they would have in their lives if they would constructively get rid of that shit. It's not paying rent. It's not doing any good. Get it out.
You know, they asked us, how was our Easter at our group? And I go, mine was great. This was the first sober Easter I've had in like a little 2 years. And kind of everybody just... You know,
meanwhile, in your group, there's a
so
soccer mom who's taking the
like,
happy pill and just hiding it, you know.
I was dead serious. So I had a blast playing cornhole, no drinking. We're just at the house like we always are. And had a great time.
And he was present.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
It's another one of those terms.
Well, it's, you know, and I say this, that I had been drinking when both my grandchildren were born, my first two, those two and that. When my third was born, I wasn't, and I was able to be present when she was born. I was able to be present to walk my daughter down the aisle.
And we got to be there. A lot of the men got to be there to watch, and we got to be there. We got to enjoy that with him. You know, it is, you know, crying with him because
I don't know if I'd have had that opportunity if I'd still been drinking. So to be able to be present, to be there, you know, it's incredible. And you guys are, you know, and I'll say this too, and here's what I believe, and I feel this, that you two, your story together can touch lives.
it's going to, if you, I mean, then, and I know you will, and I know he will.
I know that you two, when you work together, whether it's in the church, whether it's in whatever group you're going to be in, Jason's story, your story, Matt and Mary's story, tell the stories, man. Tell them.
The highs and the lows. Tell the mistakes that you made and how God has helped you overcome.
Somebody is going to hear. Somebody overhears the story. You know, sober out loud is what I say. And, you know, there's only one part of this story, and that is Mike's that we've talked about here. We've not talked about the story of losing a child that has not even begun to live yet, right? Just that story and how, Kim, you recovered from that while you're recovering, getting your husband to recover, and bring that whole story together can save lives. And if it saves one soul, outside of this podcast, however you guys choose to do that, whether you start a small group for, you know, people that's lost children or whatever you do, I encourage you to be out loud with your guys' recovery and whatever you do. You know, somebody else was in here and I encouraged him. Oh, I know who it was. Heather.
Yeah.
John's wife, now wife. I encouraged her, please get out and do something because she just has a tremendous story. If we keep this stuff to ourselves, we save nobody. God put us through this for a reason. Yeah. Right?
Oh, hold on. I got it. Words matter. God didn't put us through this.
No.
God walked through this with us,
right?
So that we can.
We're here, right? God brought us through this.
We can bring beauty out of that.
Oh my gosh, what we can do to save somebody else, and that's why we
must do
this.
is say, Lord, this is me. This is what I've done. What can you do with it? Right. And as we go through it, yes, we feel the pain, but as we help another person with it,
our pain heals.
Well, and it doesn't. It's not in vain.
Right. And
what we went through is not in vain.
And that's why
with the loss, and that's how we honor what was lost.
Right. And that's why we do this podcast too, it heals me. The more I talk about it, the more, you know, and to bring people like you in here to get this story out. And, you know, the social media and getting it out and just, you know, who knows where your story will go. I will make sure you guys are completely aware of everybody that
Recovery Unfiltered podcast at gmail.com. If you want to get a hold of us, Larry.
This is by far the
Mike or
longest
Kim.
podcast we've ever recorded. I can promise you. Yeah, I think Jason's went about an hour and 45. We're almost on a 2 hours, but I wouldn't trade a minute of it for nothing.
Is this going to be 1 or 2?
No, this is going to be 1. I will not break this one up. This will be one solid podcast.
I felt like we didn't even start yet.
Well, what are you missing, Mike?
I don't know.
I'm not done. We can record. I mean,
it happens like, and I guess like you say, you notice change in me. I don't notice change. I guess I do. Well, I see it in her face. That's
You
all
do.
I know. But it seems like we just sat down.
Well, and here's it does. And we say this because these mics, you get nervous when you first sat down. I bet you forgot about that stupid microphone after a couple of minutes. You do. And, you know, that's what we do. And Mike, I know, let me rephrase that because words do matter. You are getting better only because you went back to say something to Kim after your argument. You knew you had to go back. That's where you should see the change in you.
The second week when I pissed you off and you walked outside, you decided to come back and give it one more shot.
You need to recognize your changes, and those are the things that's going to heal you internally. Is when you start recognizing your changes. See yourself in those changes.
That makes sense because
you're an amazing man.
There's a lot of that
yes.
stuff.
Yes. Thanks, bro.
What?
You're an amazing man.
You're an amazing man.
Okay.
A hard-headed motherfucker.
No.
Say thank you.
Thank you. That's what she says. She says, thank you for doing that. I said, thank you. Oh, you're welcome. Because I feel like I shouldn't be being thanked for it. Or, a lot of it is just acceptance for something. That should, to me,
acceptance isn't necessarily a bad thing.
No.
And that doesn't mean we have to accept. We have to learn to accept. That's like we shared about it. Right. I had a hard time accepting the blessings of God because who I was and what I've done.
Oh,
and
for sure.
When the blessings of AA would come, I'd hold on to them very loosely because I knew I don't deserve these and they're going to go away. So, and I wouldn't enjoy them as I should, as I do now.
To me, those things, like you say, like the way God dealt with me about you.
Right.
Seriously.
He's pointing at me, by the way.
Yeah, Rob. and something else you said about spat with her that normally we could have, she did.
And you came back and apologized.
When she thanked me for that too, she goes, we could have both, couple times, different times, made that go really sideways.
Oh, yeah.
And it didn't. And she goes, thank you. And I go, for what? You know, because I don't give myself that credit. Mm-hmm. And because it should, to me, it's the way I was before and should have been, even though, you know, that's BS, all this other stuff has happened. But it's hard for me to feel good about something that
you should have already been doing.
That's a given. It's a given to me. But thinking about the way you two just had me think about it is big.
Huge.
Because
it's huge.
The way to me, it wasn't even the second thought other than sharing it with him about myself that I had an attitude because I thought he was telling me what to do and thought all this stuff. And you know, he needs to keep his thing to himself and I ain't going back. I ain't going back. Right. And
but God's Spirit said, go back.
I told Bruce on the way out, I said, okay, what day is this? We're not coming on this day. And then
I pissed him off.
Before we got in the truck, I said, maybe next week will be better. So God was already doing something. And then the second one was good. And I walked back going, that was a lot better. I told Bruce and he goes, yeah, that was good. And I go, you know, that's when God hit me and he loves this word, that he's just zealous about the program. I'm serious. It's going through my head, which I'm like, not liking this guy, not liking hearing his voice. And I go, he's zealous for the program, and I can get on board with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what was great about the second meeting, Kim, which he's not going to tell you, is when he actually participated. He spoke 3 times.
I was
in
at
that meeting.
How come you guys remember this?
He came because I've been around a long time. I see what matters.
Right.
He shared 3 times in that meeting, because it's a very open.
And the next Monday he was with us.
Yeah, and the next Monday he was with us. The growth
at the cabin,
because when you let God's Spirit work.
No. I'm
And
talking
we're-
about you're in our Oakdale meeting.
Oakdale meeting, the Monday
Yeah.
meeting. Well,
Yeah.
again, because he was, I caught him. I'm gonna take credit for this one again. He was driving to one meeting, and I was leaving to go
Oh,
to
yeah,
ours.
he's flipping
And
it.
I texted
Oh,
him,
yeah.
gave him the bird, said, "You're going the wrong way." And he goes, "No," because he was going to the Monday meeting.
Oh, Nathan
was
wanted
with
to
him.
go
Yeah.
support Susan. Or
I gave him a text, and then he was there. But he had shared 3 times that he hadn't shared before. 3 times in that meeting about what we haven't been talking about. And then he actually got, God brought him back, and he participated in his own recovery. And it was welcome because we all knew his story. And everybody, when Mike speaks, because of what he's been through, as we're men, as fathers, I
couldn't
fucking
even
listen.
fathom.
Because I hope I don't ever, but I might need that. And I know if I do, he'll be there for me. So it's a gift. He's a gift.
You guys are gifts.
Yes.
I
to me.
appreciate that. I do. I mean, we say this all the time. This has been a gift from God from the very beginning.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the way this whole studio came together, the way Katie allowed me to dump a shitload of money into this equipment. I mean, just it's been God sent, and and having people like you that agree to come in and tell your stories and the bravery it takes to do this, it's incredible. We have some good stories coming up. We've actually got 2 that I've actually been holding off on because I wanted to finish this one because I was so adamant about finishing this one. I put the other 2 off because
When he says finish, that means just a chapter. That doesn't mean we won't ask you to come back another time and when Mike's a year or 2 years or whatever.
No, I'd
and
love
see
for this
where
to
God
come
has
back.
brought.
Oh, yes.
Because that's the good
Absolutely.
stuff. That's the good stuff.
And that's why when she smiled a minute ago, I got so excited because just seeing that and knowing where it's going, and we're just repeating ourselves at this point. So thank you so much,
Well,
Kim.
I want to thank you as well for embracing
Absolutely.
Michael.
Oh, love him.
and-
Absolutely.
I'm just glad she agreed to come.
Hugging the cactus. I've heard it say.
Yes.
That's what,
I
that's
didn't
what he
think
was.
she would do it, actually, when I first asked her. But she
You
wasn't.
didn't put enough faith in God, brother.
I know, huh?
All right.
But I made it easy too. I said, "No, Larry's good. When I sat there first time, I thought he was going to go, "Okay, talk,"
Right. No.
and I'd be like, "About what?" I go, "You don't even have to do that. It just kind
Yeah,
of
Rob,
goes."
we try to keep it moving, and
But and then you notice as someone starts talking, God will bring something to your mind and hey, ask another question and pull out and get. Because I want to know whether these people listening. I don't know who they are, but I want to know. These are questions I have because when you're doing step work, you're just listening. Sometimes I want to stop someone and share. Well, how old were you then? And why did this happen? Just for whatever reason, and we dig in and get more out of it.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you,
Thank
Kim.
you.
It's been Recovery Unfiltered.
That was
Rob,
a heavy one, baby.
That wasn't heavy. That was I'm light as a feather right now.
You're not
brother.
heavy. You're my brother.
Oh, there you
Now
go.
you're fucking heavy. So you're heavy, man.
Thank you for joining us today.
We hope you learned something today that will help you.
If you did not, come back next week and we'll try again.
If you like what we heard, give us a 5-star review. If you don't like what you heard, kiss my... You can't say that, can you? Anyway, if you don't like what you heard, go ahead and tell us that too. We'll see what we can improve. We probably won't change nothing, but do it anyway.
Hey, thanks, Rob. Come back next week and hopefully something will be different and something will sink in.
This has been Recovery Unfiltered.